cooks.
The opposite of the slow cooker is the pressure cooker. Just wait till you hear about what we have to discuss. And we're going to have recipes, because why else would we talk about it if we're not going to eat? Mm-hmm. That's coming up on Morning Living, Martha Stewart Living Radio, Sirius XM 110.
For our latest news and announcements. Follow us for quick recipes and tips from your favorite experts. Follow us for easy solutions and decorating inspirations. Follow us from your desktop, your laptop, your smartphone. Follow us on twitter.com/Martha Radio. What is Martha Stewart Living Radio?
This is about living, a subject about living. Martha Stewart Living.
And learning something new every day. This is Martha Stewart Living Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Betsy Koretnick and Brian Kelsey, on Martha Stewart Living Radio.
Just after the top of the hour, welcome to Morning Living with Betsy and Brian. We're going to have instructions on the pressure cooker and you.
Well, it's a task I don't think any of us in this room have ever...
I don't have a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind one, though.
So you're saying it's really the opposite of slow cooking. It pressurized? We'll find out, but I guess...
It's fast cooking.
Yeah, it's like a...
But we can do things that a slow cooker cannot do. I mean, each one has its own unique capabilities.
Yeah. I still get nervous. I just think like it's under pressure and it's going to just blow.
It's going to explode.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be like an I Love Lucy episode.
You're right.
I urge you to read the manufacturer's instructions.
I'm
and
sure.
Stay close to us because we will be joined by someone who is obsessed with her pressure cooker, and she will tell you what to do with yours. And it will have both an entree and a dessert.
Yep. And you can do it yourself.
On Friday, we do a lot of drinks, entrees, and desserts. Mm-hmm. In fact, our fast and fancy dishes are sweet treats.
It's Friday. Sweets and drinks.
Exactly.
If you come home and you put what in there? No, I had this. You can still have time. Yeah.
That's not usually how we cook the eggs. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, but the idea of pressure cooking just intrigues me because it's... it's
equipment
mechanical.
too.
It's equipment. It's science, and it cooks pretty fast.
Well, we're going to get a lesson from the founder of HipPressureCooking.com. Laura Pazzalia is joining us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So glad you're here because this is the one thing I don't have. I mean, I have a dehydrator. I've got the slow cooker. I don't have a pressure cooker, but it is appealing for anyone who likes gadgets.
If you get a pressure cooker, you'll never use your slow cooker again.
Now, why is that? Well, first of all,
because it's the opposite.
What is the science behind it? I mean, is food cooked under pressure?
Brian, I heard you talking before, and you stopped yourself, and I think what you were going to say is a pressure cooker is a slow cooker on steroids.
He was not going to say that, but thank you for adding to the conversation.
Right. Is that what it is? Is that how, in a nutshell?
No, it's better than, and I hate to say this because, we do like our slow cookers.
Yeah.
It's better than a slow cooker because you can cook stovetop and make that work too.
Exactly. Well, in anything that you would take 8 hours, it takes 20 minutes. So you don't have to be organized in the morning and figure it all out while you're drinking coffee. You could just come home, be in a rush, throw stuff in, and have dinner ready.
Well, draw us a picture of what a pressure cooker looks like so the next time someone's in a kitchen supply store, they're like, oh, I passed that 1,000,000 times. Yeah.
Well, it looks like a completely normal pot on the base. And it is a pot. You can use it for normal cooking. It's a stainless steel pot. It's got a really nice thick bottom, like an aluminum sandwich, what you'd expect in a beautiful heavy bottom pot. But it has a special lid, and that's where all the magic happens, is on the lid. The lid clamps onto the top, and it stops any vapor from evaporating while you're pressure cooking. So that builds up pressure to a point. Then there's a valve that would release the pressure and to a certain setting, which the cook sets.
So the theory behind it is that it's kind of compressed, and the heat is. I mean, like I still don't understand how it cooks faster.
I always thought there were only electric versions, but I guess that's not true.
Yes, there's also electric versions, and I can get to that in a minute. There's two things happening that make things cook faster. The first one is, I think you all know wet cooking methods. With the humidity, food just cooks faster when it's braised or boiled versus baked, for example, right?
Yep.
So the wet cook, there's direct contact with the heat. But I don't know the exact scientific principle behind it, but what happens is when pressure is building inside that pot, the boiling temperature raises. So you're cooking it at a higher temperature. So, for example, if you're trying to make something at home and you want it to cook faster, you raise the flame and you make it cook hotter.
Right.
And it cooks faster. So that's what's happening in the pressure cooker as well. The temperature inside is hotter.
Oh.
And so you got the wet cooking method and the higher temperature, and that makes things cook in half or even a third of the time they usually would.
Wow.
Well, how did you get so interested in pressure cooking?
Where to start?
You wanted to cook food fast.
Yeah, I mean, everyone becomes enamored with certain things. Like my son, last year for his birthday, became enamored with the idea of the dehydrator. He's like, we have to get one. I want one for my birthday.
So I never knew what a pressure cooker was till I went to a friend's house, and we were running late. It was 5-6 years ago. I had really small children. I said, I'm sorry, I really got to get home. I got leftovers. They're going to go nuts if they don't eat. And she said, no, wait, I'll make dinner. I'm like, are you kidding? We're like 8 people. And in 10 minutes, she had dinner on the table. And I said, what is this noisy thing? She had an old-style pressure cooker. And what can it do? I would just, so I ran to, I live in Italy, and you get pressure cookers at the grocery store. So I ran to the grocery store to get one. And I was so excited, I said, I got to cook everything faster in it. And so I found recipes for potatoes, for stews, for beans. And then I was thinking, well, now what? That can't be it. That can't be all that you can pressure cook. So that's where I became maybe a fanatic. I started to pressure cook just about everything and posting it online, which is why the website, hitpressurecooking.com, got started. I just started to write down these recipes, and I didn't know where to put them.
So what do you do about the meats? Like I know we can cook just about any meat in a slow cooker, for example, but if you put chicken in a pressure cooker, is it more like a braise or is it more like a roast?
You can do anything you want.
I want to know how the skin's going to come out. Does the skin come out crispy?
Yeah.
You could steam it, you could braise it, you could boil it. Unlike your slow cooker, you can brown things directly in the pan because the base is a normal pot. So you could just start your regular cooking. And then you just throw in just a tad of water. And I mean half a cup of stock or wine or whatever you want. And you throw on the lid, and there's specific cooking time. Bone-in chicken pieces, 10 minutes at high pressure.
Wow.
And when they come out, yes, they're a little bit, it's like braised chicken. But one of the tricks I teach my readers is, yeah, that's fine. It's braised chicken is delicious, but if you want more, throw it on a platter, stick it under the broiler for 5 minutes, and you got, everybody really happy.
Man. Are there any secrets behind or anything we should remember that we have to do that is
because
specific?
the old school pressure cookers had a reputation for being unreliable, at least in terms of keeping the pressure in.
That's the key word, old school. Pressure cookers have a new generation, and generations in pressure cookers are really slow. They're like, elephant years. It's like 20 years. So pressure cookers made in the last 20 years they all have 3 really important safety features that your grandmother's doesn't have, and I never recommend using, if somebody has an old, or they find a flea market pressure cooker, blah, 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 it won't have these safety features. And they are, the first one, a locking lid. The lid will lock, and you will not be able to open it by accident if there's pressure inside.
Aha, because that was my, obviously the first concern is that it's going to
Well, because my new strategy is to leave the house and let the children handle the meal, so they would not be able to have an accident.
Right, so let me check, right? And then, oops, it's under pressure, So no, you can't accidentally open the pressure cooker. Even the most absent-minded person, and sometimes I can be that in the kitchen, cannot open it. So locking lid, that is missing in the old school pressure cooker.
Now, how about when it's time to open the lid, when we're done? Like, that's got to be, can you relieve some of the pressure, I imagine, slowly?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to tell about the other 2 safety.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, then I'll tell you the pressure releases, because you can do it in 3 ways, too. The second one, so that it's the locking lid, then the pressure regulator will let extra pressure out if there's too much, but there's always a backup system, because let's say a piece of rice got stuck in that. It's a really small hole. There's always a secondary valve that will release pressure. And then the third safety thing is, and when you go look at the pressure cooker, you'll see the lid, and there's like a little window on the side of the lid, like a little cutout where you see the rubber gasket through. And that's so if the other two systems were to fail, the gasket pulls in and relieves pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So the vintage pressure cookers do not have these safety, these minimum safety requirements. Then other brands have even more. But these are the minimum that all modern pressure cookers have. So I just wanted to make it really clear how safe modern pressure cookers are. That lid is not going to come off by accident, by itself, by you. But if you're finished cooking and you do want it to come off,
because we want to eat,
we're hungry.
There's 3 ways to open it. It's 3 to everything. There's a really, really fast pressure release method. It's called cold water quick. Don't do this with the electric pressure cooker, obviously. And that is you bring the pressure cooker to the sink, making sure there's no toys, kids, or animals between you and the sink. And you put the lid of the pressure cooker under running water without covering the valves, and that releases pressure in about 20 seconds.
The cold water, even it's still closed.
Yeah, what happens is the lid gets cold, and all the vapor inside condenses really quickly on the lid.
Oh, yeah.
Falls down, and there's no more pressure in there.
Oh, cool.
So that's
science.
The thing. I saw cooking shows, these chef shows where they're like freaking out they can't open a pressure cooker. They should have done the cold water release.
Aha, see?
I saw that episode.
Now, there's other ways, though, besides that, right?
Yes. Then every pressure cooker has what's called a normal release. So it's just a switch. It depends on the model. A switch, a tab, a button, whatever it is. You push it, press it, or twist it, and it's going to slowly let the pressure out. That will take about 2 minutes for the pressure to come out.
And then the top comes off, and you are just in awe of what you've created.
You hear angels sing. And the last release, I actually like to integrate it in some of my recipes. It's called natural release. That is when you're finished counting the pressure cooking time, you turn off the heat, you move the pressure cooker over, and you don't do anything at all. And you just wait for the pressure to come down naturally, and that's about 10 minutes. And during those 10 minutes, food is just cooking by itself with no energy, nothing. It's just using the residual heat of the pressure cooker because it's a really nice, thick stainless steel pot.
Now, does that change the taste? I mean, is there any benefit to doing that? I mean, or is it just, if you have the time?
Well, I've seen some people say, oh, my God, my food tastes like nothing in the pressure cooker. It's like, well, yeah, you put your old recipe in a new pressure cooker, and the pressure cooker has 3% evaporation of the liquids inside, whereas when you're cooking on a normal pot in your normal recipe or in the oven, it's 30% evaporation. So if you put in all that liquid and you're expecting it to concentrate, that's not going to happen. So you need to be really careful about how much liquid you put in the pressure cooker. And if you use the minimum amount, which is usually a cup, half a cup, what happens is the roast's own juices are used to braise that roast. So the flavor is just amazing.
All right, now you have to give us a couple of examples. Things you've learned work super well in the pressure cooker, both sweet and savory.
Okay. It's easier to say you can't bake cookies, but everything else is fine. But yes, sweet and savory, what you could do. So everybody knows about stocks, legumes, roasts, and stews. But the pressure cooker is a beautiful steaming machine, wonderful vegetables in 3 to 5 minutes, steamed. A wonderful rice. You won't need a rice cooker either, perfectly steamed. One of my favorites, you're pressure cooking pasta in the sauce together. And the pasta, instead of boiling in water and being covered in sauce, it absorbs the sauce. God.
Which is the whole reason you find restaurants combine sauce and pasta in one pan over heat. Right? That's why al dente pasta works.
They undercook pasta, and then they throw it in the pan with the sauce, and they're hoping some of it will be absorbed when the pasta finishes cooking. Instead, you throw in dry pasta in the pressure cooker, and it's all filled with sauce.
See, now that's a fun experiment. You also make carnitas.
Yes.
That's one of my son's favorite foods.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how long does it take you to make?
Well, nothing last week because we're at the farmer's market and there was a truck. If I do something like that in the slow cooker, it takes 6 hours medium or 8 hours on the low heat.
sorry, I apologize.
And I guess it would take about 2.5 hours in an oven.
Yes, it takes 45 to 60 minutes in the pressure cooker.
That's pretty fast. Now, how would you season up yours?
So I came up with a special recipe. I actually put a little bit of cocoa powder in it. I just feel that it would not be a traditional carnitas, but it gives it a really round flavor, and it doesn't taste like chocolate at all. It just gives it that extra umami flavor. So, do you want me to tell you the recipe?
Yeah, just a ballpark, because we're big on meat rubs anyway. Because if it's flavorings that are great in carnitas, it'll be great, wherever we're cooking.
Yeah. So I use about for a pork roast, I use about a tablespoon of cocoa powder, a little bit of salt, however much you want. Only 1 teaspoon of pepper flakes. Actually, I should point out. Hot pepper gets so intense in the pressure cooker, you got to be really careful. Even if you like things spicy, start with 1 teaspoon. A little bit of oregano, 2 teaspoons of that. White pepper, garlic powder, all a teaspoon. Cumin, I only put in a teaspoon. If you really like it, put in 2. Coriander, cayenne, and then I use a freshly chopped onion. And I rub it all around the roast, and I actually leave the roast in the refrigerator overnight instead of cooking it right away.
Fabulous.
Good stuff.
And then, just like you would in your normal cooking, you brown the meat. This is one of the things I advocate about pressure cooking to make it delicious, is start like you would any regular recipe. And that would mean soften an onion or brown the meat or whatever the step to traditional cooking would be, you would do that. So with the roast, you brown the meat, and this would not be braised, this would be almost boiled. So you almost cover it with water, but not completely, because the roast will release its own juice, and you want it to cook in its own juice. So then you finally throw on the lid, this magic lid in the pressure cooker, and when you pressure cook on a stovetop pressure cooker, you turn up the heat to maximum to make the contents boil and create this vapor. When the pressure cooker reaches pressure, you turn down the heat. Usually it's amazing. You need low to medium-low heat to just run that pressure cooker. You don't need anything more. And you start counting the cooking time. It's 45 to 60 minutes, depending on the size of the roast or how much you want it to fall apart. And this is a recipe I do with natural release. So when the cooking time's over, you just turn off the heat and walk away. And the roast just keeps cooking for about 10 to 15 minutes on its own. And then you pull the meat out and you just start ripping it apart with the
pull it apart and start eating.
What's that?
Once it cools, you let it cool and then eat. Time to eat.
Well, I don't know. You don't need it. Do you want to let it cool?
Well,
I've been known to eat extremely hot food because
it's there.
It's there. It comes out and it smells so good. You can't help it.
That's a nice recipe. And again, if you don't have the slow cooker, you can do all those seasonings and do the traditional cooking. Not a slow cooker, I mean a pressure cooker. You could do a traditional way. It's the same great flavors.
Yeah, it's the same flavor, and it's faster, because with the slow cooker, like I said, you have to organize yourself in the morning, and I'm just not that kind of person.
No, you have to take stock of who you are in the kitchen, that's for sure. And I know you also have a recipe for dulce de leche, which the pressure cooker can do, and we will absolutely hold on to that, if you don't mind, because we'd like to ask forgiveness after for stealing your recipe instead of permission beforehand. But it is a great way to make it. And I'm so glad you had a chance to join us, Laura, who's founded hippressurecooking.com, because it's fast. It's great food, fast, which is something we celebrate around here as well. I'm glad you had a chance to sit with us today.
Okay, thank you so much. Glad to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear. It's 28 past the top of the hour, so we went from sitting around to racing.
Yeah, running around the...
Because